Fellers and his crew. They helped set this up. They cleaned the bay floor. They did everything. So they let us into their house. This is where they live, breathe, sleep, all that good stuff. So thank you very much. I'm going to introduce my band team, or they'll introduce themselves. How's that?
You gotta stand up, sir.
Yes, you do.
He likes us to call, so it's kind of weird. Pretty Chico just recently got promoted to digital operations. I'm going to say you guys
Jesse Alexander, Division Chief, training, Chief about 3 years.
Great. Well, thank you very much for coming in. Amazing turnout. I don't know if it's just you want to see the new guy and whether he can make it through a presentation without stumbling. I will probably have the worst speaker mannerisms of anybody you've ever seen. I have odd tics, so please bear with me. I came from Colorado. I worked for a relatively large agency. Was there for 23 years, total of 24 years in the fire service. Came out here because of some unique attributes of Chico, the community itself, fit the lifestyle the family had in terms of what we enjoy, the type of community we want, and then the fire department itself is exactly what I wanted, was a smaller, more robust department in terms of capability, but was small enough that I could get to know each and every one of the Chico Fire. So I'm honored to be here. My background is I actually grew up in Southern Oregon, went to college in Aptos, started out there in junior college. I was on the long plan at JC and then transferred to Cal Poly where I graduated. Thought I wanted to be the next Top Gun and went into the Army to fly helicopters and was all happy to do it until they told me that they were drawing down and said, "Nice job, kid." I don't know. So I had to find a new career path and was really fortunate to stumble upon fire service, and that's what I've been doing since. I have a master's degree in management and a master's in public health policy and a PhD in fire and emergency management, which really means absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of things, but it's nice to have on my wall. So I'm very appreciative for Katie and several other members in here, Tom Overbeck, who have actually helped facilitate some of these conversations within the community. One of the things that was really made apparent to me is that, and this isn't just unique to Chico, it's pretty much nationwide. The fire service is a bit of an enigma. You don't really see us. You sort of sit in the background, and unless you call us for something specific, really don't know what we do, how we do it, or even why we do it. So this is an opportunity for me to talk about some of those, the what's, the how's, the why's, so you get a better understanding of what we do on a day-to-day basis, some of the challenges, some of the structural issues that we deal with, and even go through some of the solutions that may be out there for us to explore in terms of dealing with the changing environment we're in. So I wanted to be very informal about this. I have a presentation of about 2 hours. It should be relatively short. It's just more or less to give you a sense of what we do. At any point, if you have a question, please, let me know. And this is hopefully more of a dialogue than it is a formal presentation. I didn't get dressed up in my little tuxedo suit, so hopefully that'll help facilitate better conversation. We'll get started. So I wanted to sort of talk about why we do what we do. Basically, the essence of the fire service is we bring calm and stability to a volatile event, and that's defined fairly broadly, right? The volatile event could be a broken arm that we're responding to with EMS. It could be a cardiac event. It could be a fire, motor vehicle accident. We have a very wide swath of activities that we are responsible for responding to. We're problem solvers in the grand scheme of things. And what we do is we bring that expertise and we try to bring a calming influence and really fix your problem. And that's basically why we exist, right? So our background is we were conceived in 1873, which is an amazing thing to think about, how much history that this fire department has, and it's something to be proud of. But like most fire departments, as the needs of the community grew and evolved, so did the department itself in terms of what we do. And that mirrors fire departments throughout the country. We absorb a lot of different activities, and the range of things that we do are pretty expansive. So we have basically two ways we operate. The first, and the one that you would be most familiar with, is the reactive way. Going to the incident, getting a call for 911. So they range from fires, medical calls, rescues of all types that include motor vehicle accidents or traffic collisions, water rescues, what we call technical rescues, which incorporate road rescues, trapped hikers up in the upper part, for example, building and trench collapses, confined space, and industrial machining traffics. We also do hazmat. In fact, you're at a hazmat station. So after we get done with this presentation, we'll give you an opportunity. We'll have some folks tour you around. We'll do a tour of the station. We'll break you into groups if you want. You'll get an opportunity to get to see the hazmat rig, one of the fire engines, and they'll walk you through it as well. So anybody that wants to stick around for that, we'll go through that. And then we do fire investigations. We look for cause and origin. We turn that information over to the proper authority. Then they take it from there. If they can build a case, that's a way they are able to prosecute and take care of the law enforcement that way. The proactive piece is our risk reduction model. And that's a relatively new advent in terms of the whole scope of risk reduction. Originally, it was about code enforcement, but that has expanded as well as we started looking at different ways that we can influence and reduce the risk to our community, to the various hazards that impact us. So we do things like influence the zoning and ordinance adoption that a city and county or municipal or a special district might help facilitate to take care of some of those hazards. Education and outreach is a huge aspect of what we do, helping inform our community of some of the hazards and some of the things they can do to help reduce those profiles. And then in some jurisdictions, they do a lot of wildfire mitigation activities. Where I come from in Colorado, big wildfire interface, and they do a lot of mitigation activities within the fire departments themselves, or with the communities to help reduce that profile. Questions? All right. You guys are a really easy group. And maybe you're saving it up for the very last. So some of our significant hazards that we have identified as a community, identified as a fire department, and the first one is sort of an odd one. You wouldn't think of modern fire behavior. We'll give you a demonstration of that through a video. But the modern fire behavior now has reduced or increased that time from ignition to full involvement. And a lot of it is due to the fact that the modern furnishings in our homes are synthetic oil, synthetic base, and it increases that volatility within a home, a structure that now when we have 15 or 20 minutes to get in before we reach what was called flashover, now we have 5 to 7 minutes at most. Multifamily homes, we have a plethora of them here. We have the one that gives me the heebie-jeebies in terms of what it can do, our senior living facilities. Tightly compacted, people with limited mobility, in some cases mental faculties that limit their ability to evacuate on their own. So it would create a significant event for us if we had it in one of our larger senior living homes. Large apartment complexes. Now I'm talking about the ones like off of North Avenue, the big concentrated single structures that have hundreds, potentially hundreds of residents in wood frame structures that can go up like that, and with modern fire protection and detection systems still present a significant hazard for us. Residential high-rise, we've got one, and that's on the campus. Unfortunately, it's not sprinklered, so not sprinklered, and so again, we have a high-profile risk there. Something that is obviously becoming, unfortunately, the norm, and again, coming from Colorado, we have the distinct pleasure of being the capital of active shooters. Unfortunately, we've learned a lot of hard lessons from that. Most of it is the tight integration that has to occur between law enforcement, fire, and EMS to evacuate people and to extract people from an active shooting incident and get them to critical care for survivability. While the urban interface fires, obviously we have a profile here that, and within California, that you guys are acutely aware of, and certainly it's a problem. And then the last one is our hazmat. Rail and fixed facility present a potential hazard for us as well. So some of our challenges, we have three, I call them categorical challenges. First is our structural issues. Most of you are very active in the community, obviously, and are acutely aware of them as well. Our limited tax revenues. As a result of the 2008 downturn in the economy, many communities had the same issues. Downturn in the revenues coming in, and then the collided issue with things like pensions, salaries, and services that were difficult to sustain. And so they also contribute to the structural problem that we face even today. What I call cascading issues. So for us, I call it the triple whammy. It's the loss of staffing that we had in 2008. It was at 22, and that we're down to 14 today, which caused us to shut down 2 stations and consolidate our resources into the 4 remaining stations. The loss of mutual and automatic aid from CAL FIRE, shutting down the Station 42, they had provided quite a bit of resource support for us within the city. So when they closed that station, that helped increase the burden on the remaining resources in our community. And then increasing requests for service. It's just a natural progression that happens in the community that's growing and has more needs. And so we saw 3.4 from 2016 to 2017 across the board. Capacity limitations. When we get reduced staffing that we've had, closing stations, you have more resources that now have overlapping or multiple calls that can come in. The police have obviously encountered that as well. And so we have instances where we have simultaneous incidents that now we need to manage simultaneously. Training limitations is both a function of smaller department. We don't get to do as many high acuity trainings, which are centered around hands-on, multi-company trainings for our low frequency but high-risk events like structure fires. Pre-planning, getting out, understanding our community, understanding the businesses, what hazards exist and so forth, and then just our management capacity and able to be a proactive versus a reactive department. Some of the evolving issues, again, modern fire behavior, fire protection systems, changing demographics, firefighter wellness issues that are starting to come to the forefront within our industry. So, how do we operate? We're like a football team. We have to rely on very tight coordination of resources. When we got on an incident, we have to coordinate those, and very much like a football coach would coach his team, we got to have a playbook, We got to adhere to that playbook.
Audible.
Audible. And there you go, you got audible. So there's a lot of similarity. Just like football, we train a lot in order to be confident at what we do on a day-to-day basis. We have to be flexible. We got to audible out when we get on an incident, or we have different challenges along the way that we have to adapt to. We have to be adaptable to the environment. And just like football, it's a very physically demanding job. And I can tell you, thank God I'm not on an engine anymore. I'm starting to break down. So what I'll do is we're going to walk through 3 different types of incidents to give you an idea of how we coordinate on those types. So we'll take the first one, structure fire. It's what we're most known for, right? It's a thing that, well, we'll call it fire. So one of the things we talked about is modern fire behavior. So NIST and UL have done a series of research which is really transforming the fire service. It's allowing us to understand better what fire behavior is doing and how we need to adjust our tactics to that. So on the left-hand side is what we would call legacy furnishings. These are about the early 80s, mid-80s, and before. And then the modern rooms are on the right-hand side. So these are typical furnishings you would have found pre-1980s, let's say, and on the left, and then today's furnishings. So you can see the fire starting to grow. It's a little harder on the right-hand side, which you can see is a legacy building right in this area. I would show you a laser, but it doesn't work very well. And it won't take long. You can start to see the column of smoke on the right-hand side rising up, and then the flames now starting to. Now at this point, this is what we call the incipient phase of the fire. It's just starting to grow, but it hasn't started to consume the room.
Steve, while we're waiting for this to line up, is the issue the finishes or the actual materials of the furnishings?
Both. They're both function of the furnishings themselves. And when I say furnishings, I'm talking about wall coverings, floors, flooring, and so forth. So look how rapid it has grown in just a minute and almost 2 minutes. Now what happens is, the smoke that's being produced here, this is unburned particulates that once a room reaches what's called flashover, the room contents become so hot that it, for lack of a better word, spontaneously combusts, the off-gassing of the furniture and all the unburned trapped gases. You can see how rapidly that fire has grown in just about 2.5 minutes. Once you reach flashover, and you'll see it here, the life survivability decreases almost to zero because you depleted the oxygen and the heat profile in that room where that occupancy becomes so high, you've just burned everybody in there. In fact, flashover is such a problem that firefighters have been trapped and burned as a result of a building flashing over before we're able to cool the fire or the gases or release them. So that just gives you an indication why this is important. Is it is a critical aspect of the way we now look at fires. Our ability to get to the scene quickly, get a hose line deployed, and get water on the fire is more important today than it has ever been because of the rapid spread of that fire. If we are to get the fire out and get survivable, make it survivable for those that are still in the occupancy. Anybody have a question?
Can we send the bill to IKEA?
Dude, yeah.
Is it-
Sweden's got some money, so why not? Yeah.
If you played the entire video out, the room on the right completely flashes in about 3 minutes and 30 seconds. If we had the full time to play the entire video, the legacy room flashes in 29 minutes. So the difference is 3:30 versus 29 minutes.
And again, thinking about how your rooms or houses are furnished, and it doesn't take much to ignite it, which is, we see fire decreasing in some respects, meaning the number of fires have gone down, but in areas that are urbanized and where we have poor protection systems and so forth, they're actually starting to increase because of this problem. So the factors that a first-in officer has to account for when they get on scene of an incident is very broad, and they have to synthesize a significant amount of information in a very short period of time so that the appropriate decisions are made in order to get the fire out. So they look at the building itself, what's the building made of, and what's the impact of the fire will have on that building. So they have to determine that within seconds. What's the effect of that fire? How far along is it in the progress of its growth? Is it going to have an effect on the building based on the style of building, location, on collapse? Will it spread into void spaces, attic spaces, which create a whole different dynamic? Where is the fire? What's the smoke telling you? And we actually have something called reading smoke. It gives us an indication what the smoke is doing or what the fire is doing, where it's at, and how it's progressing. We look at what kind of life hazards are in that structure that could contribute to potentially or hinder our ability to get people out, get hose lines in place, put out the fire, and make things good. What kind of occupancy are we talking about? We treat residentials more aggressively than we might a commercial because there are more life loss potential in a residential, obviously, than a commercial. But that doesn't mean that we're just sitting back on a commercial because we still have that potential depending on time of day and day of the week. Water supply, we have to make a determination. Do we want large water more rapidly, 2.5, but then that comes with the offset that it's heavier to move that hose than it is 1 3/4 inches, which is more mobile, but we don't get quite the water flow that we would get or need. So walk you quickly through what we look at in our operation on fire, and it's the mystery behind the box, or behind the door, I guess. So engine two, typically we have 4 on that rig. It's in our busiest station in the city. They get a structure fire. We'll call this a 2,400 square foot home. So that first crew, their job is to make those assessments, take all the factors, and make a determination where they're going to place the hose line. So in this case, they see a kitchen fire, go in the front door, 2 firefighters advance it in. The third one is helping maintain door control because, again, our changing tactics, we want to limit the amount of oxygen that's being fed to that fire. Having that 4th firefighter helps with maintaining door control and limiting that. Then our engineer sits at the pump panel, makes sure the water gets to the firefighters, and they're starting to get water on the fire. Engine 4 comes in, truck 1's crew gets off and starts searching the interior of the structure. Now they're a versatile crew. We could have them do a couple different things, but in this case, because it's residential, I might throw them all in to do a rapid search to make sure we can't pull people out if necessary. Engine 4 comes in and we want to make sure we have a secured water supply so that if the fire starts to extend, we've got enough water to manage it. Our engines carry about 750 gallons of water on there, which accounts for about 4 or 5 minutes of water on an 1 3/4. Sometimes the technical aspects might get a little fuzzy. Second group, they then pull a hose line to the back, potentially to help with transitional attack, extension, that kind of stuff. Then our district chiefs, which our division chiefs cover that duty for most of the year. They come in and provide the overarching incident command and start to be the coach on the field, if you will. Then we take our last available rig, which is engine 5. They come in and they're going to help ventilate the structure to get as much of that those trapped gases out of the structure to help alleviate the potential for flashing. Questions?
Chief, on the ventilation, so it's this sort of put a hole in the roof so they get the fire out?
Correct. So there's some debate within. So it's just like any other profession. There's debate on how we should be doing that when, but typically we will use it to help evacuate those gases and provide better visibility and so forth. So yes, it's a way to ventilate quickly. So that's why we get on rust pretty aggressively.
Yes.
They're just my henchmen. So, like I said, we go on a bunch of different types of incidents, traffic collisions. Same thing, we take command, identify hazards, we identify patients, we develop an action plan. In fact, we develop multiple action plans because if plan A doesn't work, we can't plan harder for plan A to work. We have plan B, plan C. Then we execute the plan, pull hose lines, manage other hazards, secure the vehicle, get in, start providing some medical care, and then extricate the patient, handing it off to our partners at BCAC who do an amazing job. Marty is our representative here today from BCAC. And we work very well with them, and it's a coordinated effort. Cardiac arrest. So this is what we would call an acute medical call. And so we get one of the questions we get most frequently. So we get the question, why do you roll the big fire truck to a medical call? So the reason is a cardiac arrest is the easiest one for us to demonstrate. It takes a minimum of 4 personnel to manage a cardiac arrest. Marty, correct me if I'm wrong. If I get it wrong, you'll step in for me. So we need somebody doing compressions. We have somebody that's getting the defibrillator out or getting the monitor to check what kind of rhythm they're in, because it determines what type of drug interventions they may provide in order to bring the person back or make the person stable. Paramedics starting to work on the drug management end of it, get an IV, and then we have to get an airway. So at a minimum, it takes 4 people to manage that incident. Now you get them loaded up in the back of a medic, you have to have somebody drive, and you still have to have the paramedic doing his thing or her thing, somebody compressions and managing the airway as well. So that's why we roll the big red truck, because we help the BDMS medics manage that so that they can get them to the hospital as quickly as
Chico
possible.
Fire Institute, we cleared our medical, we're going to handle the call, Mr. Truck.
So some of the things that we look at and we'll be looking at, what alternative or augmented services delivery models can we look at? One of the things we're going through right now are things that the fire department absorbed and in my humble estimation should have never been doing. But it at the time was probably pretty reasonable, and it was community expectation. Hey, you guys can go do board ups of businesses where the windows have been broken. Well, that takes a critical resource out of the mix that could otherwise be used for a true emergency. Water evacuations, so forth. I'm working with Valley Foundation. North Valley, thank you. to bring on board a safety foundation that will help us do more public education and outreach. We do have volunteers. The challenge for us with volunteers are they have to meet the same requirements and standards of our paid professional firefighters, which is very challenging because most people who volunteer just don't have the time to commit to that, and the time and energy to devote to that. For the ones that do, typically are the younger kids who are looking as a pathway to get into the fire service as a whole. So it can be a very challenging aspect, and throughout the country, volunteer fire departments are really struggling to maintain or recruit new firefighters. So while they have a utility in our department, are valued as a true augmentation of our core services, it's just not a very robust or viable model. Two-person engines, the challenge there is the ability to actually execute a rescue is limited, if not absolutely prohibited, with a two-person engine. So we're delaying actual actions that could be viable on many of these calls. And then a special district, and that's something I came from, as a special district. And certainly if I had my own money coming in, I'd be a happy man, but it comes with trade-offs. And those are trade-offs that we'll be looking at and evaluating as we move forward. So that is my more than probably you wanted lengthy presentation. So now I open it up for Q&A. Okay.
You said the volunteers have to have the same standards as the firefighters. Who mandates that, and why is that?
The state does, and it's because of the volatility, the risk that they would face, and the potential liability that the city would incur, any municipality or district would incur having volunteers that don't meet those standards.
So every aspect, so even if they're rolling hose or
No. So we use our volunteers, the ones that come in. They help us with rehab and getting our crews in service as quickly as possible. But again, we've seen a real drop-off of the volunteer force in that regard. But we don't put them in any, what we call an IDLH, which is what I call the hot zone, the dangerous part of the incident. I saw somebody else. Yes, ma'am.
Is there any kind of cost to the federal government and carpet and bridges and things like that less or more likely to
Not that I'm aware of. We have what's called the NFPA, which is the governing body of the fire department, of the fire service, provides the standards across a wide swath of activities. And so they bring together in various aspects industry representatives to look at ways to create standards, and then they'll turn around and use that from a legislative standpoint to help push through better safety measures. So when I came out here, I was shocked, for example, that new homes here have residential sprinklers. Where I came from, it was very controversial, and there was a lot of pushback on integrating that in mandating it. So yes, I can't speak to that specific hazard, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're looking at that.
How do you work with the cameras up on Sawmill Peak in Magnolia?
Okay, I've been here 2.5 months, so I'm going to have to defer to one of my experts.
Chief, can you repeat the question?
Oh, yes. She asked about the cameras on
Sawmill Peak?
Sawmill Peak, those are the ones the Cal Fire operates.
Yes, and then they are supposed to relay to you, or the correct, go ahead.
So the way that'll work is they're directly tied to the county or the local ECC. So they'll receive that information and they will dispatch if it appears to be in or near our jurisdiction. They will dispatch us and we'll work with the county and CAL FIRE to respond to those locations. So those cameras are directly tied and work closely with the ECC, which is CAL FIRE, and they're out of Portland. So those wouldn't be communicating to us unless they're seeing something directly in our upper park. At that time, they would give those locations to, and then they would dispatch us.
Do you happen to know how far of a range the cameras
can foresee something happening?
Not quite sure.
Yes, sir.
I just want to say that in the past, we partnered with the fire department here in Nevada. You guys come to confined space training, eye rescue, hazmat, and we encourage you to give us a call, partner, so let's help you out.
I appreciate that, and we look for those opportunities where we can. Like I said, the challenge for us is being able to do that and either take crews out of service, which we're very reluctant to do, or bring people in off duty where then we're looking at paying overtime, so we have to balance that out. But we look for all those opportunities. And again, it speaks to the amount of training that we have to do to stay proficient in the array of rescue, fire, and EMS activities we participate in is pretty substantial. So we look for ways to make sure we are competent and proficient in everything we do. Yes? Oh, thank you.
One of the big problems I had was the way that we have mass communication with the fires that are happening. Just what kind of mass emergency communication
Well, emergency mass emergency notifications for wildfires and other emergencies.
Can you repeat your question just so I make sure I answer it correctly?
Yeah, so I was concerned down here in fires, and one of the big issues is they didn't have a way to send out mass alerts themselves. Unless you had to know to sign that board, which is close to the line. So I wonder what type of mass communication Chico might have if they're running it.
All right. So
I
that's
actually did know that.
Do you want to answer this now?
No. I did know it. It dawned on me when you told me. I'm like, oh.
So we try and work closely with the police department, and one of the programs, I think the county already has it, but one of the programs that we just received last year, and we're trying to get better at getting the information out there to people, is I believe it's called Code Red, and it's something that you sign up for. We try and get a mass. We're going to continue to do it, working with PD, but basically you sign up for this. It's an app that you can get, and you can get up-to-date evacuations. So for example, if you're living in Canyon Oaks, PD, if there's a fire up there and we need to get that area evacuated, people that are signed up on Code Red will get notifications to their phone, or tablets, and we'll be able to, well, hopefully it'll direct them in the direction to go as well. Not everybody has it right now, so we still rely on our communication with the police department, and they'll also help assist in that action as well.
I do have that application on my phone, and when we were having the last fires, I live up in Missouri, it alarmed me, and it also said in what zone at that time was being evacuated. So it was a zone below where I live. I'm thinking, okay, do I stay and wait or do I leave? I left.
An age-old question. And from an incident management standpoint, that's actually a fairly difficult decision to make because of the profound effects it can have on people. I know when we were burning down Colorado Springs several years ago, we were trying to make a determination of trigger points to evacuate. So it's not an easy process to go by. So from a individual standpoint, I think that's where you have to make that call for yourself too. So.
And I have, since that incident, I have my things that I want to take with me already. It's in one closet and it's all compact. Because I went through things like, what am I going to take? And that's too much frustration at that point.
I always encourage people to have a go kit. Have your essentials ready to go. If you have to go at a moment's notice, you can grab it and go. Yeah.
So how, one of those first slides, you showed all the different scenarios that you have to be trained and prepared for. It's a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So if, you guys are really busy consistently, staffing levels are low, how do you still get adequate time to stay up to date on all the training you need to stay on?
We make it happen. I mean, the bottom line is we have a very dedicated group of people here, and it's really an amazing thing for me as a leader, that they are so committed to their craft that they'll do what they have to maintain those credentials. Now, some of them, like hazmat, we have hazmat technicians. Brandon right there is one of them, and he'll, when we break out, he'll talk to him about the hazmat. He's at a higher level than the operational level on the floor for most of our personnel. So he takes extra training and keeps competent on that, and he takes that upon himself to maintain that level of certification.
Chief can add to that. As far as the training is concerned as well, he's actually our training chief. I probably shouldn't be answering this, but when I came on, we had more people. So the cities across everywhere, they had more money, and so they were able to send us to trainings a lot easier because fiscally, it was a lot better situation. It isn't now, and we all know that. Chico's not the only ones to feel that pinch. One of the ways we overcome that is, instead of being able to send as many guys as we used to be able to send, we try and send 1 or 2, and those 1 or 2 will come back to us, and we'll use them as trainers. So it's kind of train the trainers. It doesn't work as well, but it definitely does. It does benefit our department to when we do send people out for the training, that they actually come back and they'll teach. We have 3 shifts. We try and teach all 3 shifts. That training, that specialized training. So, because it does, it updates every year. The fires get different every year. The numbers go down as far as flashover, bumper gear changes, things like that. We need to make sure that we're keeping up on that. So we also have magazines that we stay current with, such as Fire Engineering, Firehouse, and some conferences we try to attend to make sure we stay up on the new issues.
That's why I have these guys here. Sir.
Clearly, Chico, like many other cities, is challenged with whether it's the payroll, the staffing, the overtime, and the pensions. For things done differently in Colorado that you can bring to Chico to kind of help alleviate that, or some new directions that might improve those?
Well, as I said, one of the reasons I put the challenges up there's some structural issues, and we didn't have CalPERS like we do here, right? So that's the elephant in the room. Unfortunately, those are things I can't deal with, and I've described it this way: is there's a real narrow window of operation that I really have some space to work in. Unfortunately, there aren't a lot of great answers to that, as much as it is we just sort of wait it out and hopefully adapt some of our processes to the new reality. But to answer your question, no, I don't think I'm going to come in with a magic wand and be able to fix some of them. So, sorry, Mark, you can put that in my evaluation. Could not fix problems. I probably shouldn't sell the house just yet, huh?
A comment to my question. I'm with Farmers Insurance, and we, as an industry, appreciate what you all do because of the fact that when you mitigate property damage, you then lower claims for us, which then turns out to go in the room to help keep premiums low. But with all the wildfires we did have last year, actually wild storms, we all are unfortunately seeing major increases in insurance, probably for the next 3 to 5 years. But with that said, you had a major incident Sunday, I think it was, or Saturday, at North Avenue, the apartment complex there. While that was going on, what would have happened with your department if you had a fire in New York City?
We would be doing an all hands call. We had 2 true incidents. We would have had to have evaluated whether the resources we had available there could be peeled off to handle the other one. There were some move-ups that occurred with the county because they were helping us with that fire. So potentially they could have helped us. They're limited staffing as well, so it's a dual-edged sword for us. We really have to be proactive in managing it. That goes to speak to the ability to get to that incident, mitigate it as quickly as possible, and in some cases do more with less. But it's not the efficient method that we would advocate.
Chief, so if you have a situation like that, where you have a second incident, do you have a mechanism to bring guys back and maybe off?
We do. So we do that quite frequently. Actually, thank you. Appreciate it. See, I had you here for a reason. I'll probably know more about the department than I do, so I'm going to hire him as my consultant. Yes, we use that mechanism very frequently. We will call back, even if we're expecting a 2 or 3 hour event, we'll call people back, and it is a very rare occasion we don't get firefighters to jump on that contract. It's the beauty of people living within our community, that they act in a lot of ways like a volunteer force in that way, in so much as they're an on-call resource. But they've got to be willing and able to do that. And one of my concerns as a leader is always looking at, as anybody would, is your workload on your folks and the impact it has on them over time. So we're constantly bringing people back for those purposes. It can have a detrimental long-term effect. We can see, workers' comp claims go up, for example. But so those are always things I'm watching for as well. But thank you. That's a great question.
Have you been able to experience our park here in town yet?
No, I'm going mountain biking for the first time this weekend.
Okay,
Whether it's
so
my
start at 1 mile and maybe keep going and just look at maybe the underbrush. Is that going to be your call into your jurisdiction?
So that falls under the parks, and we're working.
But you as fire chief could make some recommendations.
We would work collaboratively with them.
It's very dead. It's like so much dry underbrush.
But just like us, they have limited staffing, so they would have to look
So we would have
for
volunteers.
grant funding. Well, it's a very specialized process.
So enjoy your bike ride.
Yeah.
And the good rush.
So I do want to say we're at 1 o'clock and we always end on time, but I want to thank the chief and his team for hosting us here and spending the time with us. Let's give him a round of applause.
Just quickly, before we break away, I'll make myself available for any Q&A after this. I'm happy to come out, talk to you one-on-one or with groups that you may have. I'm always available that way. And then again, we'll break into 3 groups. We'll have one group here. We'll put them at that door. And then anybody that wants to go look at the hazmat rig and then the engine, they'll walk you around. If anybody wants to stick around, please do.
And I want to thank ServPro, Chico and Lake Almanor for providing lunch to us and all of you for attending. We really appreciate it. Have a great day.